you've kind of become this almost traditional stand-up comedy act, where what I mean is you're not doing zany characters and going off like a lot of sketch people do.
Right.
You're going up as yourself, being yourself for an hour.
Well, it was important to me to start trying to figure out how to be myself on stage, because I have spent 20 years being characters and being absurd and being silly, and I love all that stuff and will continue to do it. But I also felt like there's a whole part of my life that I've sort of closed off from performance, and I wanted to open it up and try to be a version of myself that is the closest to the actual version of myself that I can be without weeping.
Right. Now, is that like a braver move for you to do, to say after this long, here's who I actually am?
Look, don't get me wrong. I'm very brave.
Yeah, you are. You definitely are.
I mean, I'm the real hero.
Right.
We know that. No, I mean, I think, I think for me, I like to do things that scare me. That's how I got into stand-up to begin with, because I was afraid of it. And I thought at a certain point, you just have to look at your fears and either run from them or run towards them. And I decided in this case to run towards it. And moving more into sort of the personal realm was another one of my fears. And so I'm moving towards that. On the other hand, there was a daddy longlegs in my house.
Right.
I ran from that.
Run from that
Oh,
fear.
that was terrifying.
Well, there's some fears that are best to run from.
Yeah, well, that
Nazis.
was the kind of thing I was not ready to confront.
Yeah, right, sure. Not at this age. When you're doing stand-up, are you judging that show as it's going along?
Oh
Or do you
yeah,
think
but I
of
mean,
yourself,
I mean, but I think you have to as part of the craft. I mean, part of the craft of stand-up is entering into this dialogue with the audience as it's going on, where you're listening to the audience as much as they're listening to you, and you're making adjustments, however subtle they may be, throughout the show. You're constantly making these kind of micro adjustments as you're going, and sometimes macro adjustments depending on what's happening. But to me, that's a compelling part of the craft is listening and having that dialogue.
I've never really heard anybody talk about that before, but yeah, that's dead on, that you have to know whether or not it's succeeding at that second. And then you're thinking, what, a couple moves ahead?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, it's like, I think when people play sports, I wouldn't know, but I have heard when people play sports and they get into something called the zone, I don't know what that is. I think it involves Gatorade.
Yeah.
That you reach a point where you're just sort of doing things by instinct.
Right.
That's the goal when you're doing performance, any performance. That is the goal. It rarely happens. And so, yes, by necessity, you are consciously thinking a couple of moves ahead about where you're going and how to get there. What's the best way to get there.